card right now with Cleveland, 12 games above 500. First of all, let's talk about the positives. Matt Olson has been just what you would expect and want him to be at first base. You got Piscotty on the IL. Profar has been a bust. So you've got some good players there, and Chapman, Gold Glove, third base, 20 home runs already. What do they need offense? Let's talk about the offense first. Does Oakland go out and make a deal? We know they went and got the pitcher from Kansas City. I don't know. Maybe it'll work out. He was pitching really well. But do they go offensively? Do they try to pick up a piece? What do you think?
Honestly, I think the thing about Oakland is the shot to the gut with Jesus Luzardo, right? So if I'm Oakland, I'm going out and getting that front end guy. And I know there's not a whole lot of them because everybody's in the stinking race, right? But if I'm Oakland, I need that front end pitcher because they've really kind of taken some body blows there, and it's hurt them. Now they've gotten by with what they have, and they're kind of in a similar situation that the Angels are in. The back end of that bullpen is really solid, right? Liam Hendricks has been unbelievable. So much so they took the job from Trinan, right?
Yeah, Trinan's yesterday's news right now.
Exactly. So I'll tell you, and I'll tell you, I know we've talked about him too. I think Jorge Mateo brings the speed aspect, if they ever bring him up, that they're needing. So I think they have that in-house. I don't think that's the move to make. I think it's a front-end pitcher. I don't know who a good partner would be with, but
So let me give you a partner. Here you
sure.
go. What about the Miami Marlins? And I use that because you're talking about, in an economic sense, two teams who pretty much look at payroll in a similar fashion. The Marlins, traded everybody but the cow owner away getting to cut payroll. Oakland's always concerned about payroll. Can you work a deal? Let's say I sent you Mateo and I want Caleb Smith, or I want a pitcher because Oakland needs a major league ready pitcher. Is there a player that Miami might want, like a Mateo at the AAA level, that they would take in a trade for a pitcher? Because Miami's loaded with pitching. They need some bats.
Well, I'll tell you, the guy that jumps off the page to me, first you want to talk about Mateo. He's definitely someone who I think that they value. But I really think, and I'm sorry, you kind of gave me a curveball here. Luzardo, or how you say it?
Luzardo?
Yeah. I'm looking it up, sorry. Stall for me.
Luzardo.
So he was an international player 2 years ago, signed as a 16-year-old. He's made it up to Double-A now. Let's see, Oakland A's prospects. I'll be in there. So he signed this. He was like the number 1 or number 2 international prospect as a 16-year-old, like 3 years ago. And then he went, Lazarito is his name or something like that. And then he went and kind of disappeared for a little while. And now he's starting to resurface. So he's kind of the one, someone with a really big upside like that would be someone that would be marketable for some of these teams, like a Miami that Luzardo.
I'm looking him up too.
He's the number 4 prospect. He's right behind Sean Murphy, and he's in front of outfielder Austin Beck. So he's in front of Kaperlin. He's in front of Mateo. And again, this kid I think now is 19 years old.
So is that Miami's looking young, right?
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere right now. They can wait a year or two. And so to me, it makes sense.
So he's an IA. He's only hitting 235, but he's got 13 homers and 12 stolen bases as a 20-year-old. So, he's an outfielder. Here's a kid who, when he was signed, was legitimately the number 1 international prospect. As like I said, I think a 16-year-old.
Wow. And to me, you look at the National League. You heard, I don't know what you heard on my show. But there are only two teams in the National League that aren't playoff relevant, in my opinion, the Mets and the Marlins. The
Right.
Giants, okay,
Totally.
I'm really shifting gears with you here, but I'm going National League now, and I'm looking at these teams that are on the peripheral tonight. We talked about Oakland. We've talked about the Angels. How about the Giants? I mean, I don't know what they're doing tonight in Colorado. I know what they did last night. The first game, they just absolutely annihilated the Rockies, and then Game 2 was a pitching duel in Denver, and San Francisco wins both of them. So, are the Giants legit or are they pretenders? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't think they're legit, but I mean, I got a couple here little tidbits that I didn't get to earlier. You mind if I share them?
I'm ready. That's why I'm leading you into it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Awesome. So, I love going on here, and sometimes I get myself in a little wormholes, right? But when speaking to the Giants hit barrage, so the other night, both the Giants and the Dodgers scored 16 runs for the first time since 1896. You want to know the opponents?
I'm ready.
So on that day, the New York Giants beat the Chicago Colts 19-4.
Okay.
And the Brooklyn Bridegrooms beat the Pittsburgh Pirates 25-6.
That was a long time ago, Chappie.
You think?
That was
the Bridegrooms hat.
I was born in the day of black and white television. I think it's long before that. So wow. How many years ago was that? 120?
1896 makes it, almost 125 years.
Wow.
So I got two more tidbits.
Loving this. Go.
Awesome. So the game yesterday, they started the game by going 9 for 9 with runners in scoring position. You know what the record was for runners in scoring position consecutively to start the game?
Tell me.
It was 11. So they were 2 off that record.
The Giants.
The Giants. So the Red Sox back in 2003 went 11 for 11 to start the game with runners in scoring position against the Marlins. So they were really close to breaking that record, right? And then this last one, the Giants scored 90 runs over the past 11 games, which is the most during any 11-game span since they moved to San Francisco in 1958.
What a
So I
team.
don't know what's going on in San Francisco, Arnie. I don't believe it, but why not ride the wave, right?
Well, you look at the standings, okay, and I'm looking at the teams in front of them, and this is what I want to do for a moment. I'm not going to look at the Braves or the Cubs or the Dodgers or the Nationals.
Right.
Let's look at these other teams, okay? Let's look at teams they have to pass, okay? There's San Diego. There's Colorado. We see what they're doing to the Rockies. There's Milwaukee. They can't pitch a lick.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Okay, so if you look at that, everybody else above that would be in the playoffs right now. So the Giants have to pass the Padres, the Rockies, the Diamondbacks, and the Brewers. They're only 2.5 games behind the Brewers right now. 3 games out of that second wild card. And the Phillies are going nowhere fast. Now, I think they're winning tonight at home against L.A., but do you really have confidence in the Phillies? All I'm saying is, no, I'm not a Giants fan, and I'm not a Giants procrastinator, but I will say this. They have a chance when you look at the competition. They're not competing against the Nationals, Dodgers, Cubs, or Braves. They're competing against the Cardinals, Phillies, Brewers, and Diamondbacks. And they can compete against those teams. I think they can compete.
And Reds. The Reds are tied with them.
And
Let's not
Reds.
forget the Reds. I know you talked about them at 6.
Fine. I agree. And so put the Reds in there too. All I'm saying is the Giants are on par with those teams. And if they start to hit, like Brandon Crawford, oh, come on. He's not going to get 8 RBIs, but Brandon Crawford's better than a 225 hitter.
Here's my only thing with all this. I just don't see it offensively. I don't see any prospects for them offensively. Maybe you could point me in the right direction on it. But even looking at the prospects, they're 2 or 3 years off. Hilo Ramos is 2 or 3 years off. Joey Bart is 2 years off. So these guys that they got coming up, they're not ready to contribute yet. So where's the offense?
I agree. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the stars would have to align. But I'll give you this one, and I'm going way back, not as far back as the Bridegrooms, but I'm going back here. Okay, when you go back to 1988, and the Dodgers are in the World Series with Rick Dempsey catching because Socha was hurt, Danny Heap playing right field because Mike Marshall was out, Kirk Gibson on the bench and can't walk. You're talking about a group of no-hitting somebodies, yet the Dodgers win the World Series. Okay, the Giants, yeah, I agree. They are not the best offensive group by far I've ever seen. But what if, and the stars have got to align, I got it, but what if Crawford hits, and Belt's hitting 368 out of the leadoff spot over the last 15 games?
Yeah.
And who thought Brandon Belt would hit 368 over any number of games? And so that's how they've gotten back on this surge, is players have overperformed. How long can it keep up? I don't know, but don't you know Bochy's loving it? This is his last year.
Well, I think that's a big part of it. I think that's a great point, Art. I mean, I think it just goes to show you how much his players really respect him, and it shows the resilience of these guys playing for Bochy's. I think that's what it is. They're playing for Bochy's last hurrah. So maybe you are right. Maybe there is some legitimacy to this. I don't. I'm still having a hard time believing it, but again, it's not like you're keeping up with the Joneses. You're keeping up with the Joneses helpers, right? I mean,
that's right.
Guys, you know, the Brewers and the Diamondbacks and the Rockies and the Padres and the Pirates and the Reds, hell, they all stink too.
My point. That's my point. If they were competing, if it was, say, take the Giants or take the Dodgers, okay, take the Giants or take the Cubs, take the Giants or take the Braves, take the Giants or take the Nationals, okay, they lose out every time there.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs. I am saying they've got to change their perspective now, only 3 games out of the wild card. Instead of becoming sellers, don't they have to become buyers? It's weird, isn't it? A week ago, I'd have never had this conversation with you. And we never...
But what are they buying, though? What can you put and add to that lineup that's going to... Like, I just can't... Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I struggle with that. Like, where do you build? Like, what makes sense for the Giants to build on?
Could you trade Buster Posey? Could you trade him?
Oh, I'd trade him in a heartbeat, but who would take him?
Is there a team that would? I'm beating the box with you. Could you trade a Samardzija? I know now you're trading a big piece, but could you trade a Samardzija who's been pitching well lately?
You could trade a Samardzija, but what does that get you?
Is there a team that also pretends they're in contention that would need that pitcher that could get you that bat? Because we're talking about pretenders. I mean, the Reds. Let's just use the Reds for example. Okay, the Reds, do they have a bat in that lineup that's underperformed? Sure, every one of them almost, right? Would the Reds want a Samardzija on their team? I don't know. I'm just trying to get imaginative here. But
I would say no.
If they did, then you might could get an outfield bat. I think it's a reach. I got it, but they're in it right now.
I got a team for you.
Okay.
Your best friend team, the Red Sox.
There you go.
I mean, but what's the match? So Samardzija, what do you send in return?
No, you send them your closer. You send Will Smith over to Boston because I don't think he's that good anyway.
Yeah.
And Boston, well, their bullpen
so you're
stinks.
saying Smith and Samardzija, who does Boston send back though?
That's a great question. I don't have that answer.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, do they have to change their way of thinking because they were sellers 2 weeks ago? Now they're 3 games out, and if you start selling off parts now, what does that do to your fan base?
Well, and that's the absolute truth. I hate that we're in this absolute buyer-seller BS because I believe that you can just do a reset and serve the same purpose. You don't have to give up the farm to build, or you don't have to sell the farm to rebuild, right? But my whole thing is do a trade that makes sense. If you want to get rid of some margin and you want to bring back some offensive talent, go and ask for Michael Chavis. Go ask for one of their good young players that is serviceable. because it can help both parties. It doesn't have to be some rookie no name.
And I'm talking way out of